Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Lindsay Soderberg if you are new here, and today's video we are going to be going through 6 of my favorite books / my book recommendations. Each of the 6 books are in the personal development genre, so that is my favorite genre to read. I literally, my entire life growing up, I thought I hated reading until I found this genre, and now that's really the only thing that keeps me intrigued enough to finish a book. Let's just go ahead and get started. My first recommendation is called You Are a Badass by Jen Sincero. If I were to recommend a singular book to anyone, this is it. You can tell by my copy, I don't know if you can see my pages, this book has had a lot of love. I know I've given it to my mom to read, and then a few of my friends have read it as well. I can't speak enough good about this book. Basically how Jen wrote it is each chapter is a life story, and then at the end of the chapter she kind of brings out a life lesson to learn or something to think about, and then leaves you with actionable steps that you can take in your life to learn from it. And I think her voice throughout this book and just the way that she talks to you makes it seem like you're having a sit-down coffee chat with a best friend. It just feels so personable and implementable, which I think some personal development books can feel sort of listy, you need to do this and this and this and then it'll be good. But this one feels not like that. It feels very digestible as I'm reading it. I'm oh, I can see what she's talking about in my own life. And right when I finished this book, or even maybe halfway through, I started actively noticing things in my life and was able to start thinking about ways that I could, get better at them. This is one that I want to reread again very soon because I feel I could just never read enough of this. There's so many good nuggets in here. But I think another thing that's good about this book is that it's kind of a beginner step into talking about vibrations and frequency and all of that stuff. She does it in a very digestible way, which is something I totally appreciate about this book, because especially at the time that I first read it, I had heard of frequency, energy, and all of that stuff, but I wasn't very into it yet. And I would say this book kind of segued me into getting more into it. So love this book, definitely recommend to anyone. It would make a great last minute Christmas gift if you're looking for one to give. I mean, honestly, all of these books would, so yeah, that's something to keep in mind as well as I'm talking through all of these books. Maybe you have someone in your life that would really benefit from receiving one of these for Christmas or the holidays season in general. And book number 2 kind of goes along with this, so same author. It's kind of a sequel to it. It's You're a Badass at Making Money. This one I'm not all the way through. I'm actually just kind of starting it. This is one I'm currently reading. I got this one after reading the first one. One, because I literally loved the original, You Are a Badass. So I was of course I'll read anything that comes after that. But specifically about making money. There's one section in this book that she goes through this lie that you kind of tell yourself and then start to believe it to be true, and then that changes how you live your life. I think one of the big lies that I have grown up with is just the way that I view money. So I think this book is going to really be helpful to me. So far I'm 60 pages in, and so far it just starts talking about what lies you tell yourself in regards to money, how you can rewrite those lies, and how you can move forward. And yeah, I obviously have a ton of this book left, but so far so good. Anything from her, highly recommend. This next book here is still within the personal development genre, but I like this book because it's so different than most of the books in this genre that I've seen. So the book is called The Last Lecture by Randy Pausch, and I also adore this book because it's so different and almost wholesome, it feels like. So the premise of this book is that Randy is a professor, a computer science professor actually, at Carnegie Mellon, and he gets diagnosed with cancer and finds out that he's dying. And because he's a professor, professors give their last lecture. Because he's dying, he ends up just going through all of his life stories and what matters to him now that he finds out he's dying. And through that he shares life advice and what he wishes he would have done differently and what matters the most to him now that his life is coming to an end. So love this book. It's just such a different take, I think, than most other personal development books. So that's why I really like this one. It's a fresh read. It doesn't seem too to-do listy either, which I really enjoy. And I think it's also cool. I feel like a lot of the personal development genre is female authors, so I actually like that this is a male author, just because it's a different perspective as well. I also think that I like this one specifically because I'm in computer science, so some of the times he talks about like how he's like super nerdy and like all that stuff, and I'm like, okay, same, relating to that. So the third book I'm gonna be sharing with you guys is one that I'm sure you've heard of, Girl Wash Your Face by Rachel Hollis. I feel like this one is like the face of like personal development books. Like I feel like if you haven't heard of much personal development books, you've probably still heard of this one because it's just super popular. And I really enjoyed this book as well. Kind of like Jen, Rachel Hollis has a really good voice as she's writing and feels very just like friendly, and like you can get to know her through her writing, and it makes it a little less daunting. So I still really enjoyed this book, and it has a similar idea to You're a Badass because it starts each chapter with like a lie, and then throughout the chapter debunks that lie, and then at the end of the chapter Rachel talks about things that she did in her life to like kind of rewrite that lie, so it kind of leaves you with actionable items as well. My thing with this book is it was a little bit harder for me to get through because of like the age that I'm at and the topics that it would talk about. So Rachel talks about a lot of things in her life throughout this book, like each chapter, and there were a few chapters that I felt got pretty focused on like marriage or like kids and like those struggles, and like obviously I'm only 20, so I couldn't really relate to any of that stuff. So I did put this book down for maybe a few weeks, like in the middle of reading it, and then I ended up picking it back up and finishing it, which I will say too, like I don't always start and finish books like in one read. Like I don't know if this is good or bad, but I like will start a book, and then if I'm like not feeling it, I'll like keep my bookmark in, put it down, start a different book, and then kind of just like go back and forth between many books. I don't know, but it's like I will end up finishing them eventually, but it's like I just don't get into them to finish them all the way through in the beginning. Anyway, that's a side note. So I ended up picking this book back up and finished it, and when I did, I really enjoyed it. But yeah, I will say that if you're like me and like my age, where like maybe you couldn't relate to more the maternal or like marriage side of things, it's still a good book. Definitely one I'll probably hold on to, so like when I am married or when I do have kids, I'll revisit this one because I think it'll apply a little bit more to my life then. So the last two books that I have, they get a little bit more spiritual, I'd say. First one that I'm talking about is Vibrate Higher Daily by Lala Delia, and this book kind of builds on, like I was mentioning with You Are a Badass, it kind of briefly steps into the realm of talking about vibration, frequency, energy, all of that stuff. This book kind of like opens that little step in and like kind of expands on the entire thing, and just breaks down like how you daily can make changes in your life to vibrate higher and like raise your frequency. I think it's really cool too from Lala's perspective. She talks about how she used to be in like a really bad place in her life, and she raised her vibration to like become this super successful person. And so she talks through the entire thing through her personal experience, which I think is really cool and powerful, especially when talking about this topic, because sometimes like when you're talking about like vibration and frequency, it can get a little abstract. So I think for her to be able to speak on it from her own life experiences, it's just that much more impactful because we can see it like at work. This book is just very digestible, and I think that it's well presented, especially because the topics could be a little bit more overwhelming. And then this last book is probably the most spiritual one out of all of them. It is called A New Earth, Awakening to Your Life's Purpose by Eckhart Tolle. This book is very good. I think you have to be in the right place and at the right time in your life for it to resonate. I bought this book way before I actually started reading it. So I bought it and then I like tried to read it right when I got it. I maybe got it like freshman year of college. And I remember trying to pick it up and I was like, this is very over my head. Like it is very enlightened and like talks about the ego and how you feed your ego and how you want to not feed it and how you can like bring your soul back and all of that stuff. And it's very spiritual, I'll say. But I re-picked it up last year and I was able to get a lot more out of it. But I think this is especially one of the ones that like I had to kind of read in chunks because it's kind of a lot of information at once. So yeah, this is definitely a slower read, and I don't think I've finished this one either. I think I'm still working on this one, but I think when it does resonate, you can like feel a difference working in yourself because it is so resonant. So yeah, those are my 6 book recs. They're all a little bit different and they all mean something different to me, and I carry these like with me whenever I move anywhere because I just feel like they have like good vibes. So they mean a lot to me. So it was very fun for me to be able to share them with you guys. If you have read any of these books and agree, if you like them, what you thought of them, let me know in the comments. And if you have any other book recs, I'm always looking for more to read. Let me know also down in the comments what you think I should read next or your favorite book. But I hope that you found this interesting, and thank you guys so much for listening, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.
It's the lullaby straight till the morning. Oh, how we keep it going. This love is only moments, girl. And you know I'm carrying the world. So just me like the side boy, save me from all of